Hey everyone, Mully here, and welcome to my 100th Legends of Runeterra video here on YouTube. I didn't have a special celebration video planned because I'm normally not the type of person to celebrate milestones, but I figured why not make the 100th video my updated guide for the Lucian Kalista Harrowing deck that I had a lot of success with last season and continue to have success with this season. Anyway, this is the deck I used last season to climb from Platinum 4 to Master's rank. Just to give some brief stats, by the end of last season, which is about a week ago now, I had a 65% win rate with this deck in almost 120 games, and a whopping 80% win rate versus everyone's favorite deck, TF Go Hard. So yes, the thumbnail you saw was not clickbait. This season, it's still doing well with a 63% win rate, although I've only played 30 games with it so far. I would have included what my win rate against Go Hard was for this season, but I've only played one game against it so far, which I did win. So technically the win rate is higher than 80%, but 80 sounds better. And let's face it, Go Hard as a deck hasn't really changed. This particular list we're going over doesn't have any new cards in it either, but we will get into one new card that I have been trying out later in the guide. Anyway, the game plan of this deck is very similar to Endure. You have a highly synergistic group of units with Last Breath, along with units that proactively sacrifice your Last Breath units to both get additional effects and help your champions level up. This group of units includes Warden's Prey, Cursed Keeper, Blighted Caretaker, and Ravenous Butcher. The main difference is that instead of sacrificing and trading off units in combat to build towards a giant They Who Endure, we are building towards a very powerful turn where you play the Harrowing and revive ephemeral versions of units like Cythria, a leveled up Kalista, and whatever the next strongest units that died during that game were. You're typically looking to win the game between round 7 and 9, but this deck can end games by round 6, and sometimes even earlier, if you have the right units and champions at the start of the game. Well, let's go over the card choices. First off, we have Ravenous Butcher, has synergy with Cursed Keeper and Warden's Prey. Butcher also allows for more explosive starts, like Bark Beast round 1, round 2, you play Cursed Keeper, and then play Butcher for 0 mana, sacrificing Cursed Keeper to get a 4/3. And if you're going second with that opener, you can attack for 10 damage on turn 2. Despite that, we only run 2 copies because sometimes this card can sit dead in your hand with no targets on board to hit. Bark Beast, at this point, I'd say this is a core card in this Kalista Last Breath unit package. A 3/3 for 1 mana within the first 3 turns is very powerful, and this deck can activate Bark Beast relatively easily. Next, we have Warden's Prey. I'm playing Warden's Prey over other options like Fleet Feather Tracker and Hapless Aristocrat for a few reasons. As of the Cosmic Creation expansion, there are 13 followers you can get from this card. 10 out of those 13 are good cards to get from Warden's Prey. The only quote-unquote bad ones are Caustic Cask, Thorny Toad, and Pesky Spectre. And even Caustic Cask can help you do this. Hold on. I can sneak Lucian in anyway. Yeah, we'll sneak Lucian in anyway. I'm okay with that.
Push back the darkness.
We win again, boys.
Firing.
Oh my god. The classic. The classic. The classic. Caustic Cask strikes again. So that's pretty hilarious. And it's reason enough for me to run this card over the other 1-drops you could play. It's also easier to get rid of Warden's Prey later on because you don't want random 1/1s on your board when you're preparing a big harrowing turn. They can actively make your harrowings worse because they're taking up space, something that Hapless Aristocrat tends to do often. Fleet Feather Tracker is a strong early challenger unit, but it's noticeably weaker in a deck like this, and another unit that has no synergy with Blighted Caretaker or Ravenous Butcher. A Curse Keeper is one of the most important units in this deck. It has excellent synergy with Ravenous Butcher and Blighted Caretaker since you get a bigger unit from its Last Breath ability without giving up board position early on. Just make sure you only have 2 other units on board with this card if you plan on targeting this with Caretaker. Otherwise, you'll lose a Challenger Sapling for every unit you have above 3. Glimpse Beyond is still a strong card, although it has fallen off in power overall. This deck takes full advantage of it though. It has synergy with our Last Breath units, helps our champions level up, and gives us card draw that we otherwise wouldn't have at all. You'll mainly use this in response to your opponent targeting your units with removal, but at times you'll need to proactively use it to finish leveling up a champion or activating Lucian's rally. Curse Keeper is what you usually want to target in that scenario. Lucian kind of acts as a second Kalista in this deck because even though he has different abilities, he has similar level up requirements and synergizes well with Kalista's level 2 ability, as well as other cards like Blighted Caretaker and the Harrowing. Because his rally ability can now go off on the same turn he levels up, you will get scenarios where Lucian can end the game as early as round 4 with the right units. Usually it'll involve Blighted Caretaker and Ravenous Butcher along with another target to sacrifice. Next we have Sharp Sight. Sharp Sight, it's just a solid card. No real synergy with the deck itself, but it just helps your units survive damage, beefs up a level 2 Lucian considerably if he isn't blocked, and protects against fearsome decks as well as elusives, a strategy that seems to be coming back in this new meta we're in. I always wish there was another option for a cheap pump spell when I played this style of deck back in open beta, but all we had was Mark of the Isles, and now we have this. Single combat. Seems a little weird to see single combat in a Demacia deck with smaller units, but this definitely helps the strategy of this deck because you don't mind your units dying during a single combat you played anyway. It's cheap removal that is necessary versus certain matchups and helps your champions level up. Blighted Caretaker, probably the most important unit in this deck. This is the glue that holds the entire Last Breath strategy together, in my opinion. Caretaker has synergy with almost all of our early game followers, can single-handedly level up Kalista, and can almost level up Lucian on its own. But the most important thing is that it helps to either control the board by removing smaller threats, or help you to push for extra Nexus damage early by using the saplings to challenge your opponent's bigger threats that your other attackers couldn't get past normally. Hitting your opponent's Nexus for 8 damage or more as early as round 4 after playing a Caretaker is a fairly common scenario for this deck. Next we have Kalista. Kalista is the champion you typically run with this Last Breath unit package. Kalista helps to support the aggressive game plan we have, and she is one of 2 reasons why your harrowing turns are so powerful. She's fairly easy to level up in this deck and is very hard to get rid of once she does. Your opponent will basically need to spend another card on the ephemeral token she summons to actually have a shot at removing Kalista in almost every scenario. And even then, Kalista still might kill whatever is blocking her. A leveled up Kalista combos very well with Cytheria, but Kalista can snowball on her own as your bigger units die. Next, we have Neverglade Collector. Neverglade Collector, this is the flex slot of this deck, I'd say. Neverglade Collector can be a bit slow, and it's a weak play in certain situations, which is why I'm only running 2 copies of it. I was testing Grand Plaza over this card when this new season started, but the reason I went back to Neverglade Collector is that it helps you get the final points of Nexus damage needed to win games. Even if your opponent can block all of your units after you play a Harrowing, for example, if Collector is in play, they're still taking up to 5 damage regardless. And because Collector's ability actually drains the Nexus, it can help you stay alive against aggro decks. Let's talk about the Grand Plaza really quick. I've been testing this card this season so far with most of my games running this card over Neverglade Collector. And it's not quite as strong in this deck as it is in other Demacia decks. It does work pretty well in certain scenarios. You can remove bigger units thanks to its buff, and even Blighted Caretaker gets better when the saplings are 3/2s, along with Caretaker itself being a 3/2 challenger. Even your Harrowing can effectively double as a board clear. I've learned that in general, you typically want to play the Grand Plaza on round 3 when going second, or round 4 when going first, which is kind of the opposite of Blighted Caretaker. But there are a few too many awkward scenarios with the Grand Plaza. This deck is aggressive, and you don't really want to spend turn 3 setting up a Grand Plaza. That's a unit that you're not playing that could be attacking or even blocking for you. It is better on turn 4, but without other cards like Grizzled Ranger or even the Undying, the Grand Plaza doesn't really fit the strategy of this deck all that well. Even Harrowing isn't that great, because you don't want to be challenging units with your Harrowing tokens and trying to clear the board. You want to be ending games immediately when you Harrowing. That said, you can play it in this deck. It's not bad. It's just not as strong in this deck as others. The deck would have to look significantly different to take better advantage of this card, to the point where it would probably have a different strategy despite being in the same regions. I may still flip back and forth between this card and Neverglade Collector, depending on what I'm running into on ladder, cutting a glimpse beyond for that third Grand Plaza. But I think this is an example of a classic lesson in Legends of Runeterra, that just because a card is good doesn't mean you run it in every deck. I will say at the very end of this video, I'll have another deck list that looks similar to this one that does use Grand Plaza in it that you can try. Bear in mind, it's a deck list I haven't tested myself, but one that other players have experimented with using similar cards and have found some success so far. All right, let's move on to Cytherea the Bold. Cytherea the Bold is the other reason why your Harrowing turns are so powerful in this deck. Cytherea gets pretty ridiculous if you either have a leveled up Kalista in play or you bring one back along with Cytherea when you Harrowing. The two have excellent synergy with each other in this deck. The ability to give your squad fearsome is what allows your units to get past some blockers and end games, whether those units come from a Harrowing or not. Remembrance, this card is very strong in this deck for a completely different reason than other decks that also run this card, and that's because of the way you play it. So in this deck, you don't skip your first 2 turns to play Remembrance on turn 3. Instead, you play this card after combat has ended and a bunch of your units have died. Once that happens, you can potentially play this card for as little as 1 mana or even 0 mana. Typically though, you'll play this card on round 4 or later, where it'll cost anywhere from 3 to 5 mana. But this even functions as a defense against the Ruination, one of the only cards that can directly deal with the Harrowing, or any board clear, since multiple units dying means that this card instantly becomes much cheaper to play, and you're able to keep threats on the board. And finally, we have the Harrowing. This is the card that makes this whole deck function, the main win condition. This deck would lack a lot of finishing power if not for this card. The Harrowing does help to differentiate this deck from something like Endure, despite having a similar game plan. Endure is heavily reliant on one single unit to finish the game, which makes it vulnerable to silence effects like Hush. The Harrowing doesn't have that problem, and you can still create threatening board states that a single Hush is not going to save your opponent from. You'll typically Harrowing for 4 or 5 units with this deck. The full 6 units is rare, and usually means you have to win the game on that turn, which more often than not, this card does, but not every time. All right, real quick, we'll go over some basic mulligans. To put it simply, the mulligans are very similar to Endure decks. You are looking for your 1, 2, and 3 mana units. Always think about how you're going to play out your first 3 turns with this deck and what board you want to have by round 4. Blighted Caretaker basically requires this and is why sometimes you can keep it even when going second, since it's very good even on round 4, especially if Kalista is in play already. Never keep Ravenous Butcher. unless you also have either Curse Keeper or Warden's Prey in hand already. Don't keep any card that costs 5 mana or more, not even Remembrance. If you have some early units to play, you can keep Single Combat and possibly Sharp Sight against specific decks like Scouts and the new elusive decks that have been popping up respectively. But don't keep Glimpse Beyond, ever. But that's pretty much it for the guide portion of this video. We're going to jump into some gameplay, but before we do that, I wanted to mention a few things first. I did put together a written guide for this deck that I posted on Reddit that goes over this deck in detail. The written guide not only goes over everything in this guide in more detail, but also goes over how to play the deck against specific matchups, the different types of unit combinations and openers to look for in your mulligan, and some additional gameplay tips. It also goes over the history of the deck, something I didn't get into here since not only is it in the written guide, but I also went over my own history with this deck in the last YouTube guide I did for this deck a few months ago. So if you're curious about the history or want more detailed tips on this deck, check out either one of those. I'll leave a link to both the written guide and the last YouTube video guide I did in the description box below. One last thing, I'll be showing 2 games from last season since there haven't been any card changes, and I want to showcase this deck against some specific matchups. However, I'll also have a 3rd game from this season where the deck is using the Grand Plaza over Neverglade Collector. I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay, and I'll be back after the gameplay is over to showcase a different version of this deck. That is kind of funny though. Yeah, Fearsome's a really good matchup for it. We have some tools, like we need Kalista and we need Cytheria, basically. Those are our most important tools for that matchup. We need to be able to make our stuff fearsome. Sure, I'll keep these. There's argument to even tossing Lucian here. They should have a 2-drop here. Oh, they don't. I'm surprised.
Don't get in my way.
That was a good draw. Man, you don't have anything, do you? Okay. They're probably gonna go hard. That's probably what they'll do. All right, cool. Yeah, they're looking for go hard. Yeah, Fearsome's a good deck to climb with. Okay. Problem's gonna be 4 mana left over. It does give me a. We'll lead with Bark Beast and see what they do here. My TF. Yeah, this is a bait. Could even sack here. I could even sack. No, I'd rather not.
I'm a people person. There you are. We're gonna need more coffins.
At least when you start, they give you Lee Sin Zed so you can smork up the ladder. True.
Go on then. Watch the ball, folks. Come, this way. Where you going?
You got a problem though, fam. Unless you can kill Lucian, like you're dead.
This is mercy.
So much for go hard.
And stay dead.
Stay dead, go hard. All right, we got Noxus Ez. And they're running Draven and Swain. My guess is, I mean, usually when it's this combination, it's the champion on the left is the one they run the most copies of. They're running at least 2. So it's either 2 Draven, 2 Ez, 2 Swain, or 3 Draven, 2 Ez, 1 Swain. I like single combat, but I think I want to start with double Bark Beast. You know, it's a bit risky given they have Static Shock. Support Zed is viable. Welcome. How you doing? Just gonna spam Ionia if Guard stays meta. Alright, so that's 3 damage. Hope you're doing well. We just started playing games actually. We spent we've been up live for almost an hour, but most of it we were talking about the new patch. We just got done doing that. This is our first game, but I'll be playing games for a little bit, and then I'm actually gonna do like another live review, probably within an hour, because I want to talk about I haven't gotten a chance to talk about Riven yet, and the reforged cards that got spoiled before Riven. I think they'll let it go, because if they don't want to give me a blocker, they'll let that go. Lulu? I think Lulu's fine. I'm hoping they don't Static Shock here. It's not ideal for them if they do. We'll see, but it's not ideal for them if they do. I think Lulu only works in Demacia though. I tried to make Lulu work for a long time with Targon, like in the same type of support deck, but it just wasn't as good. Like Demacia is just better, has better control tools early on. Like early challenger units like Fleet Feather Tracker. And their support units are arguably better than the ones you get in Targon. Looks like Flock. Looks like Flock. Yep, that's Flock.
Another day in paradise. By my hand will Noxus rise.
Let's pass here. We don't have a great Harrowing either, because we've seen Kalista, but that's it. We haven't seen a Cythria. Not yet anyway. a tri-beam that does 3. I should glimpse here, just so I can prevent it. What's Remembrance? Problem's gonna be Swain here.
Leave them nothing.
Really? Man, I'd put Swain last, right? That's what I would do. This will still put Swain to 5-5. I should probably do this and hope they don't have a way of killing Neverglade Collector. They would need another flock. They use one. Plus they might... Well, who knows? Our Harrowing's not that strong, so I'm not gonna go for it. Not yet. It's 3-2. What's crazy is I might not even go for normally I would go for the Great Horn here, but I'm not sure if I even want to do that. Like normally I would just open attack with this, but then it's just gonna trade here. It's kind of the issue right now. Like maybe that's okay. I guess we can try it. I think they have Static Shock in hand, if this is their play. So I need to get single combat off in a way where, like, we need to respond to their Static Shock. I really want to see if they have it. So, Blighted Caretaker is going to let us do that.
Time for the main event.
Fame went to your head and found ample room within.
Everyone's a garden.
Heaven should be you.
Okay. Well. We're gonna hook here. And attack like this. We're not even close to killing them, so...
This is gonna hurt for you.
That's really good for us. No, they have to have like Mystic Shot or something. It's possible. You're able to crack the 1-up Gangplank for the Go Hard list. 1 TF, 1 Zat short. List still seems decent though.
I will break them.
Yeah, Swain flips here because he strikes from the single combat. But we still get him. Because he would have flipped anyway. Alright, we're in a pretty good spot. Harrowing kind of decent, actually. Alright, fine. There's worse guillotines. Ez is close, but he's not in play yet, and they only have 1 card in hand. What's up, Never Early? How you doing? Woo! Oh no. That's bad. That is bad. So I can prevent the most damage now by sacrificing my own Blighted Caretaker and just taking 6 minimum, assuming they don't I think that is what I'm gonna do. We need the Harrowing this turn. Next round. That's what I mean. And I'll save the Glimpse for then too. And then pass. The good news is they don't quite have the mana for we need to try and end the game right now, or otherwise we're dead. Sumpy sump. Yeah, we win. Even if they would have had to have, like, I don't know. What did they need there? A lot. They needed specific cards for sure. Oh, it's my boy. It's Gnome. It's Dad. It's Dad. Gnome was in the seasonal tournament. He got really far. He's the dad. Like, I'm pretty sure he's older than me. Alright, anyway. Alright, so what are we? Leona ASol? This is control. So we've Prey. I think we give up Glimpse, and I think we give up the Grand Plaza here. Actually, no. I could Warden's Prey. And then on turn 3 Plaza, turn 4 Caretaker. That's a good line. Ah, Kalista makes that awkward.
What does he want from me? I've gotta get out of here.
I'm something of an aspiring trichologist.
Plaza's not gonna get played. We can't do it. Well, let's see.
Ours is the one true light.
Kalista is a bit risky. I could just play Plaza. As long as he doesn't kill the 1/1, then it's fine. We're just missing out on Kalista. Because the other issue is that, I mean, I could sharp side and protect Kalista. I think we probably just get Kalista going. And then if he has the single combat, we just have to sharp sight. We just don't have a choice.
There you are.
Yeah, it's Dad. It's Dad.
Bless the faithful and sear the heretics.
Okay. We can probably attack here. Sure. Okay.
How bothersome.
Wow. That's insane, dude. That's actually nutty. He went Sharp Side and Pale Cascade. I mean, the nice thing is Kalista's gonna live, but man.
Sunward.
But he did that because even if Kalista flipped there, then she still won't be strong enough to kill the egghead. So I think we're gonna go Grand Plaza.
The dawn has arrived.
Carry her light across the mountain.
Behold the sun's holy light.
I think we're going Lucian here. Pretty sure. This keeps the 1-3 off of me.
I'll find vengeance on my own.
No, 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 no!
Too damn soon.
We could Grand Plaza here. Sure. And then Caustic Cask into Cythria. I have 2 challengers. This is just kind of a unit turn. Just gonna hope Gnome doesn't have the interaction. But we need to plan ahead next turn. I need to walk out of next turn with at least 1 mana. For sure. I could... Yeah, I'll just slam this.
Show them what we're made of.
It's a 7/7 challenger. He might Daybreak here, potentially. That's another line he could take too. And then Leona would flip. If that's the play, then I still have to hook Leona with the 1/2. And then hope that I probably leave Lucian out of combat.
Forger, your work is unparalleled.
Okay.
Behold the divine power of the sun. The guilty will suffer. Right on.
Actually, no. We want to do this. And probably this too. I think I will attack with Lucian. I think this is okay. Like, they'd need Pale or another Sharp Sight here. So we'll prep for Harrowing here. I don't think I'm playing this Curse Keeper. Pretty sure I'm not. Like, whatever dies, just dies.
Unyielding light.
Doesn't have lifesteal anymore. Harrowing for 2? Is that even, like, strong? Oh. Alright. I'm just gonna play.
Looking grim. I'll sleep when they're dead.
Do that. Could Relentless Pursuit here. I think I will. Yeah, still gives me 9 mana to Harrowing if I want to next turn. So, I'll rally. Nice, got there.
And stay dead.
All right, so as promised, here is a different version of the Lucian Kalista deck featuring the Grand Plaza. And as you can see, there are a few cards that are different. For one, we're running Hecarim instead of Kalista, and because of that, the 3-drop slot has been opened up. So we're trying Senna again in this spot. Senna is a card that I've tried countless times with Lucian in Shadow Isles, and is a card I talked about briefly in my written guide as to why she wasn't in the Kalista version of this deck. So again, feel free to check that guide out if you want the details on that. Link in the video description. We're not running Ravenous Butcher. Instead, I chose to add in Grizzled Ranger since it's extremely powerful when played as a follow-up to the Grand Plaza on an attack turn. Also, because the Harrowing is overall slightly worse with the Grand Plaza taking up a spot on our board, we're only running 2 copies. This deck should largely function the same, and other players have been testing this style of deck with some success, but again, I haven't tested it myself, so play this at your own risk. But that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed the guide as well as the gameplay. If you did, feel free to hit the like button just below the video. If you don't want to miss future Legends of Runeterra videos, or if you've just been enjoying what I've been uploading so far, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell so you're guaranteed to never miss a video from me. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this. And I'll see you all next time, and happy holidays. Here's to more videos now that we've hit 100 Runeterra uploads.